Get your pen and paper ready. It's time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
All right. Flexers ready? Welcome into The Flex. Welcome to Week 3 Tips and Tricks, the most confused fantasy podcast out there. Live on the, well, not live, on YouTube. You're seeing us all in our great glory for your upcoming matchups. Head on over to BroadwaySportsMedia.com for all of our other great content. And wanted to mention real quick our recent partnership with 440 Sports. Check out 440 Sports for all of your Broadway podcasts that you already love and all the other Nashville content available for your listening pleasure.
Hey, don't forget the Heimerdinger Foundation.
Oh, and
we are partnered with the Heimerdinger Foundation now. Great charity. Go and change your membership over to the Heimerdinger membership thing. I mean, I don't know what we're taking.
Foundation monthly all access pass is exactly the same as the regular monthly all access pass, except 25% of your membership, all the proceeds, 25% of that membership level. Again, same price as the regular membership level. Go to the Heimerdinger Foundation to benefit charity, to benefit cancer patients who do not have access to healthy meals. That's what their whole mission is, and it's pretty great. They've fed hundreds of thousands of cancer patients in Nashville and surrounding areas. So
it's not just that. I did this for them last year. We went and actually prepared a bunch of meals for families, and don't let that throw you off. They were all great. We didn't do the recipes. They just told us what to put together, and we cooked.
It's like HelloFresh.
Yeah, so we put together the bags for everyone. But it's not only just the meals we're going to these families who are going through this awful time and need this uplifting thing in their life. It's also they put messages in with the bags to let people know that they care about them, they're thinking about them, that they're not alone in this world. Because the families that are going through this is not just the patients. The families are going through a tough time too. So this is what this foundation really does a good job of in taking care of them. So it's one that's really close to my heart and does a good job in the Nashville area. So check them out and please enjoy the benefits of that membership with Broadway, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, switch it over. I mean, we'll take less money so other people can do something, worthwhile, and I think that's very important. I know that other places, across the country and other websites, they always donate money, but it's always very seasonal. This is something that we're going to have going on for the foreseeable future until the Heimerdinger Foundation listens to this podcast and decides they don't want to sponsor this website anymore. Either way, let me say this. You're not – this is a one-stop shop website, right? We have fantasy, we have gambling, we have film analysis, we have hockey, we have soccer. We have it all, right? Everywhere in one spot. And now – not only do you get to enjoy all that, but you get to feel a little bit better about yourself because you can donate a portion of your membership. You are actually doing a good thing in 2020. Just seems very hard to do lately that people do good things in 2020. Now you can do good things in 2020 and still get good analysis and everything. A little bit of a selfish spin on it, but some people are selfish and they need to hear this selfish spin.
Rex Green, that's your calling right there.
And the analysis on our site is about to get way better because we've officially been cleared, given actual legitimate permission to use stills from the all-22 footage in our breakdowns, which illustrate what we're doing so much better.
Look for that. That's going to be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to that because I enjoyed those articles before I was part of this, and I'm going to enjoy putting those together now for my In the Trenches article, which I got to plug on 2 podcasts this week. Love it. Let's move on to the news.
Those are really good, by the way. Not to toot your horn for you, but you don't because you hate tooting your own horn. You'll give an idea in a chat and then immediately turn it down like 5 minutes later and say that's a stupid idea, even though everybody liked it. So it's a very good article. I think it's probably the article on a weekly basis that I learn the most from. Because you go so deep in the analysis, and I know that's going to be a blow to Justin's ego. I know he's very hurt up there, but Justin's head's already too big for his body. I cannot contribute to his neck breaking.
And Ryan has the best logo on the site as well. It's not only an excellent article.
It was in large part.
No, I'll take credit for that. I mean, yeah.
It was a collaborative effort, but it was definitely you putting together. It was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
It could use more cats. I'm just saying.
So
Well, talk to
He
Chris.
didn't make that happen.
I didn't notice the cat until I had about a week after my first article, and my wife goes, "Why is this cat here?" So that's how into it I was. I mean,
Because cats are always in the trenches. It makes perfect sense. Don't question it.
Oh, it's 100%. I enjoyed it. So let's move on past
They
that.
do call them cat holes, not foxholes. Am I right, guys?
It's a way different show. Anyway, let's move on to the news. Just to kind of go through things. Here's the big thing for week 2. Injury Armageddon. If you somehow avoided the injury bug on your fantasy team, congratulations. You're one of the few. There were so many injuries. I'm not even going to list them all. Yeah, congratulations. But it just was – it's one of the worst – I know there may be worse years altogether, but this was one of the worst weekends I can remember from just injuries happening to star players that's going to be out. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, So, I mean, a lot of dominoes are falling here for fantasy football. So we're past the waiver wire at this point. So if you haven't picked up the backups, you haven't done that, you're just out of luck. I don't know what you're waiting for this show anyway. But there were some big injuries, and I couldn't believe it. It was like the ticker kept running across, was going – good grief. And San Francisco's just do they have a team anymore? I can't believe everything that's going on.
It's crazy. I thought I escaped it, and then the Cortland Sutton thing happened, and I was like, crap. And I'm watching it with a bunch of my League of Record league mates at my brother-in-law's house, DJ EJ, and we're battling against each other and, this past week. But we're just going through the injuries, and, 2017 as a whole, as Justin said earlier, was a huge injury year. This was a one-day massacre. I have never seen injuries happen in one day like this. And not only that, a day later, the San Francisco MRI truck just breaks down. What the hell? Pray to whomever you want to pray to and protect your fantasy team the rest of the season, because we've already seen wide receivers starting not to show up at practice. It's a scary time for a fantasy football player.
And top 2 picks mostly gone, but also keep in mind the human people. Don't just wring your hands and say, my fantasy team is screwed because somebody's dealing with a lot of emotional and physical. What? Don't look at me like that.
I agree with you, Justin. That being said, if someone had Christian McCaffrey on their team and they also got decimated by other injuries, send them a little trade request for a wide receiver 2 or something. See if you can't get him for a late season run.
Not a bad idea, because he will be back and he'll be important for that playoff run. So that's some good advice there, right there. I don't see a couch behind you though, or a throne. So we'll
I just have this great advice, alcohol cart back there.
mini bar behind you. So let's touch on a couple of injuries that are kind of impactful this week, just real quick. Just Kenny Galladay's back, so that's big for the Lions. Devontae Adams injured, hamstring listed, and the hamstrings are always tricky for receivers, so just something to monitor as we go into the weekend. Michael Thomas remains injured with an ankle injury. The Saints seem to be just fine without him, so maybe the best receiver.
Well, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Well, Drew Brees had 300 yards, and his backup.
300 yards on dump offs. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. If anybody can catch, that's my point. What do they need him to catch the dump offs? If anybody can catch the dump offs,
it wouldn't be down 34-17.
Apparently not Emmanuel Sanders. I know we're going to get to that later, but apparently he can't catch the dump offs.
No DJ Chark at practice, which is big because he's questionable going into Thursday night, which is later tonight.
That's very big.
That's very big. So chest and back injury. I don't even know what that could be. I mean. Cole, he had a big uptick in production this last weekend as well. So maybe that's some names to keep in mind there. George Kittle still limited with a MCL sprain. And Cam Akers not at practice due to a separated rib cartilage. Hopefully the Chargers doctors don't swing by to try to give him some treatment.
Hopefully they don't share doctors in that LA facility.
Hopefully. Because if they puncture another lung, that's going to be a weird
What a wild story.
Theory. Justin Herbert played really well because Kansas City didn't have any film to prepare for him with, and not that, they have Oregon film, but they prepared all week like they were going to play against Tyrod, and it's like, this is the Chiefs. This is where you pull out all the stops.
I will say that.
So Anthony Lynn told the doctor, stab him in the fucking lung.
Look, if Tyrod has to go to the hospital today, whatever you got to do. Yeah, Tom Brady didn't tell anyone to deflate any footballs either. So,
Theory. Real theory. Justin Herbert found a lab coat and put on a fake mustache and went in as Dustin Sherbert. Dr. Dustin Sherbert, MD, and stab Tyrod Taylor or T-Rod, whatever.
Tyrod.
This is gonna be a weekly thing. Well, maybe
Tyrod.
he's out for a little bit. Oh goodness. Well, maybe there's a lot of theories out there, but I will back you up on at least the football sound part of that. I've been in the situations where you do prepare all week for a quarterback, and then all of a sudden the backup has to play, and you have no clue. You saw that in college. I can't remember, like Auburn just decimated a better Alabama team one year because the backup played, and they had no clue what he looked like. Texas national championship versus Alabama, the backup comes in and does better than Colt McCoy because the defense has not been preparing for his style.
4 interceptions and they got their ass kicked. Fuck Garrett Gilbert. Fuck that piece of shit. Hook 'em. Dude, 4 interceptions. Colt McCoy wins that game.
We'll see. They didn't look good with him. Anyway, that's the low way in the past. I was actually at that game. So those are our injuries that could affect some fantasy rosters currently. Moving on to quick review of last week. Big winners, big underachievers. Zach, who's some big winners from last week?
Aaron Jones is the biggest winner of this so far very short fantasy football season because he's the guy that's still waiting on his contract, and he is killing it. I have been an Aaron Jones supporter for a couple of years now since he entered the league, and Mike McCarthy screwed him over, and really for the most part of last year, Matt LaFleur was doing the same thing. But Aaron Jones cannot be denied from the end zone. When he runs and gets the ball, he's being shot out like he is in a cannon, and he's just a fucking cannonball just going at. It's so fun to watch. He's probably one of the most fun running backs I've watched in a long time outside of Derrick Henry, where you want to see what he's going to do next. And he just decimated and destroyed and took no prisoners this last 2 weeks. And he is the biggest winner of 2020. If anybody in this world is having a better 2020 than Aaron Jones right now, it's some celebrity I probably am just forgetting. But out of everything that's going on right now, Aaron Jones is living it up in 2020, and this guy has to get paid at some point.
JG, any more winners or underachievers?
Oh, nah. Calvin Ridley's my boy. Calvin Ridley I kind of was feeling a little bit that Calvin Ridley would possibly take the number 1 wide receiver mantle in Atlanta's offense this year. We've seen it happen millions of times in NFL history, whether it's Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison or Greg Jennings and Jordy Nelson. Now I feel like we're seeing this with Julio Jones passing on the mantle to Calvin. And not that Julio Jones isn't going to be a huge part of their offense, but he's getting up there in age, over that 30 hill mark. I think it's time that Calvin Ridley emerges as the wide receiver 1. He's right now leading the NFL in red zone targets, which is huge for fantasy, obviously. And he's scoring points at a clip that I love Calvin Ridley. I drafted him in 5 leagues. Very, very happy Calvin Ridley person right now.
Greenlaw, any big winners or underachievers?
I do. And I wanted to say I do because JG said he didn't, and then he gave one anyway.
I didn't have any underachievers.
I said either.
Big winner is Josh Allen. I don't know if I'm buying him as a long-term real-life starter, but he's thrown for over 300 yards 2 games in a row. I don't know if it's because the teams he's played.
Just real quick, because we are a Titans website, has Marcus ever thrown for 300 yards back-to-back?
I don't know.
If he did, it would have been in that 8-game stretch of 2016, but even then, I doubt it.
Correction time for JG.
Man.
Oh, Cowboys, Patriots were back-to-back. I don't know if he threw for 300 in either of those,
I don't think he did. Wow, I mean...
Packers? Did he even do that in the Packers game?
Mariota, you heard it here first.
Packers, Chargers, maybe? 2016?
I'll look it up. You keep on going, Greenlaw.
But he would be my winner. He's been an unbelievable fantasy starter, and he was going really late in all of my leagues. So if you picked him up, him and Cam Newton are the 2 guys that went really late as quarterbacks, and they have been phenomenal so far. My underachiever, I guess, would be Michael Gallup. I thought he might have an outside shot of being the number 1 receiver on that team, but so far he's been number 3 behind both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. So that's a little surprising. There's plenty of time for him to step it up, but so far a little bit disappointing.
If you would have listened to this podcast early in your draft, you would have heard that I would have told you that Josh Allen is a viable fantasy quarterback and he should not be going that late into your draft. So,
Yeah, I said the opposite.
Yeah, you did.
But I did draft.
But that's why I sit on the great advice throne and you're at a Holiday Inn.
You're not sitting on it. You're next to it.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is behind me. It's Breaking Bad couch.
And by the way, Marcus has never thrown for 300 yards back to back.
Boom.
Wow.
Didn't Josh Allen throw for 400 yards this week?
Yeah, we'll get
Whoa!
got all the stats here if you're curious, but that's actually one of my lessons learned if we just want to chill out on the young quarterbacks. Speaking of
Jeez,
lessons
testy for the second time
Ryan
today.
doesn't want to spoil anything, I guess.
third time, please. Justin, what's a lesson learned?
My lesson learned here is that it's time to start thinking about good matchups and bad matchups. And to me, there's a few teams that stick out right off the bat that we're going to have to kind of see if they hold true, because a lot of times when an NFL team is doing something horribly for 2 weeks in a row, they make a lot of wholesale changes to what they're doing and things change. But, I mean, some of these teams look horrible. Like there are past defenses like the Vikings right now that looks absolutely trash. I don't know if that's real or not, but my lesson is look at the matchup because it's starting to matter.
All right, Zach.
Well, to piggyback off that, which he obviously got from proofreading my article about the fourth down decision, is start targeting players based on matchups in your fantasy playoff window. So your fantasy playoff window, in my opinion, is from week 8 on. So right before the trade deadline all the way up to when your playoffs start, which is typically week 8 for some leagues. You start looking at fantasy schedules. Josh Jacobs right now is awesome, right? But if he has a horrible fantasy schedule where he's going up against some really tough run defenses, you may want to look at in week 6, week 5, week 7, trading him out. But in doing so, you have to understand the defensive trends that hold true. Much like JG said, figure out the trends. Figure out what is true. Is Minnesota Vikings pass defense always going to be this bad? Is Seattle Seahawks defense always going to be this bad? Is Philadelphia this bad as well? You got all kinds. Is Washington's defense going to hold up? Various things you have to figure out what is true. Oh man, I'm sorry. What is not true?
The depths.
And you have to figure that out. I start looking at these after week 4. When week 4 is done, that's 1 month, quarter of the season. That's when you kind of start seeing the actual trends. You kind of see that week 5, week 6 is kind of right there. You just don't want to wait too late. So do your research, look ahead, and start trading.
JG.
And to that point, the players that are leading the league in certain categories 8 weeks through the season, rarely do they end up being the top of their position by the end of the season. I mean, look at players like Derrick Henry. This happens every year where the second half of the season, Joe Mixon over the second half last year, Devontae Parker at receiver last year. There are guys that will get hot. So I would say don't ever sell too early, but you don't want to hold on to a guy that you're getting sentimental about and that could have really good trade value that whether it's because his schedule gets harder or just wears down towards the end of the year or whatever it is. Don't necessarily be afraid to trade your studs for the highest possible value they're going to be, because some guys, like Jacobs, are not going to be as good.
If you don't have a notebook of your players and players that you want to target or some form of keeping up with it, keep up with it. Just write it down. Say, okay, if I have Josh Jacobs and our trade deadline is week 9, week 8, week 7, he has a kind of a tough schedule. So week 6 is when I want to kind of trade him, right? Look at that kind of stuff because you want to trade them at their highest value to get more out of it before they start hitting a little rocky part of their schedule.
Yeah, I tried to send Greenlaw a trade this week that he didn't laugh at. He just couldn't pull the trigger because of who was involved. But I felt like it's a fairly well-balanced trade based on.
Well, let's
what
talk
is it?
about it.
Yeah,
what is this trade?
We were joking because I think that he'd offered someone in our league, CeeDee Lamb, so I threw him.
Oh, that trade.
Yeah, so
it wasn't exactly that trade, but yeah, Ryan sent me another one to get CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, yeah. So what was the trade?
I wanted CeeDee Lamb and Alvin Kamara from him, and I was trading him 3 players. Help me out here. It was Tyler Lockett, Clyde
Tyler and A.J. Brown.
And A.J. Brown.
Whoa, for those other two?
For Kamara and who?
Yeah.
Kamara
CeeDee
and
Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
Oh my God. Take
So
that.
the problem
Over
with
under-
that trade is it doesn't make my starting lineup any better.
Oh, it's got to.
But you get
doesn't.
rid of
That's
Alvin Kamara, who is going to get hurt at some point.
That is terrible. And don't say that because I have him on all but one fantasy team.
See, I didn't think that. Like I said, I don't think I offered him a bad trade, but his
I mean, you're an
wasn't a
idiot
bad
for
trade.
offering that trade, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
what are you
Because
gonna
that's
do?
way too much.
I wanted Kamara, and I believe in CeeDee Lamb.
And
Clyde
he
is
never,
only going to get Clyde
he
is only
never
gonna get better.
officially
Only
sent
gonna
it
get better.
either. He just sent a screenshot of it.
That's fair
Oh,
point.
that's fair because sometimes
You're
you're
like
like,
a joke one where I sent Alvin Kamara.
Always
for the entire
send it
roster.
first and let them either turn it down, then talk about it.
Oh,
Well,
no,
Always send
I
it.
don't think
Yeah.
I don't think my
What
heart.
what I get worried about is when the other person accepts, then I'm like, wait, did I lose this
Yeah,
trade?
that happens to me every single time. If I send someone a trade and they send me back that they've accepted it right away, I was like, I just got screwed. I don't even know. It could have been
I
a
should have
great
asked
deal.
somebody in my league if this was a good move.
Some
God damn,
of-
what am I doing?
To sum up everything we're talking about, there's still a phrase from my Coach's Corner co-host, Jonathan Bourne. A good decision is a good decision regardless of outcome, and a bad decision is a bad decision regardless of outcome. So when you're looking at these lists, like Zach is saying to make, that's great advice. That's great advice, wherever that is on his screen.
Advice through him.
So make those lists and make your decisions and live with them. If you felt they were good and they were sound, then you live with the results and be happy with them.
And
So
I just drafted Alvin Kamara again in another league. So I just want to let everybody know that I'm all in on him.
So the one lesson I learned this week, and just to keep this brief, because we kind of mentioned some of these guys already, is that maybe it's time for me personally. I know we've doubted some of these younger quarterbacks on this podcast, saying, "Oh, they suck," blah blah blah. It's time to stop judging these young guys. Like we're saying, Josh Allen, 71% first game, 68%, so hovering around that 70% mark for the year completion wise. 312 yards first game, 417 the second one, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to start judging him.
But how
Guys
many
played the
fumbles?
Bills and the
Hold on.
Jets.
Well, how many fumbles does he?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm just saying that he is still producing against these bad teams. He's putting these yards up. Maybe it's time to stop being so harsh on them and saying they suck, because a sucky quarterback is still going to go out. We've seen this before, that regardless of what they're going against, is still going to put up mediocre numbers. These aren't mediocre numbers. Gardner Minshew is not doing mediocre things. He's hitting the spots, being very efficient. Maybe it's time to just stop saying with the whole "they suck" is my point, and know that maybe you don't start them every week, but you pick your points and you pick the good matchups for them.
Oh,
They're viable.
You start Josh Allen every week.
I'm rolling
I
with
agree.
Minshew in one league every week, and that is a 14-team league that I was the last person to take quarterback. Some teams have 3 quarterbacks, so I was like lucky to get Minshew. Minshew every week, and in another league, I'm rolling with Josh Allen every week. In a league where I drafted Matthew Stafford. I mean, I'm going to keep Matthew
We're not
Stafford. for
talking
now.
about him right now.
Those two guys bring me to my last point about Herbert. Is I'm not saying he's there yet. I want to see some more out of him. But I said before the season, he had the best chance of the rookie quarterbacks to make an impact. And I'm just saying that's 1 week in the books for me. That's good. We'll see how he goes on to the next week.
I'm not eating the crow, but it's being prepared for me right now.
It's
And
season.
I mentioned this already. You know, when a defense prepares for a completely different player, things can be different.
Sure.
I agree,
So-
but
Let's see
and
how
I
he
was down on
does.
him. Yeah,
But-
I was down on Herbert too, but he made some really nice
He looked
throws in that
really,
game.
he looked really good.
It
So-
wasn't like
Screw you
oh,
guys.
they're not
He
ready.
looked
for
really
it.
good.
Screw Justin
and
Herbert. I
it's
am
pretty
not getting on the
exciting.
Herbert trade.
I'm not
It's
on it.
exciting.
I'm just saying he
I'm not
looked.
eating
He had some
Herbert.
nice
I'm still
throws.
hoping for the worst. Fuck
If
him.
he's good, it's exciting. It's more exciting for the league if he's
I
good.
disagree
So I'm
with
hoping
that. I hope he stinks.
Yeah. I hope he
he's good, so I'll be right about something this year.
I hope Oregon quarterbacks stink for the rest of their fucking lives.
I agree.
Oh, anyway. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's move on here to our most popular segment of this show, the one that gets a lot of debate, our sit, start, sleepers. And we want to just go over, I know we've kind of talked about some things. I don't know if we really want to mention the records or anything or how people did. I'm kidding.
11-2-1, buds.
Zach Lyons and the great advice thrown is 11-2-1 last week. He got all yeses and I guess a sort of. I'm not going to get into that again. But
Zach told you to start Phillip Rivers and Paris Campbell, guys. I mean, not
that was
officially
in
on the
DFS.
podcast. Not officially on the podcast, but let's not act like Zach is infallible. Yes,
Well, I'm
he's doing
infallible
well.
and sit start.
You're
That's
doing
what
well,
matters
but
right
let's
You're
not
doing
act
very
like you're
well.
infallible.
you are running away with this competition because the next one to you is Greenlaw at 5-8-1.
Until
then-
next week, and I'm going to catch up next week.
And then Zach and I, JG and I are at the bottom of the barrel here at 5 and 9. I just personally on my picks, I picked Jared Goff to sit, and every time I'm the sleeper app that we're in, just every like 3 minutes I would see Jared Goff with the big play. Jared Goff, I'm like, God dang it. and then if it wasn't him, it was freaking DJ Moore. I'm like, great,
telling you,
right there.
The Rams are back, baby.
Yeah,
I'm
I've been on that train.
That's my lesson after week 1 was the Rams are back.
But I was right about Jonnu Smith, and I'm very happy about that. Following the Titans, and he did have a great
It's a little
game
obvious, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So is Dak Prescott. That's fine.
Let me defend my Dak Prescott pick. And when I said that he would be quarterback 1, and guess who's quarterback 1?
Yes, that was a great call. That was a great, bold prediction.
Don't call Jonnu Smith.
Hey, look, it wasn't looking good.
When he's projected,
it wasn't an easy. It wasn't an easy road to that. By the way,
2 QB sneaks on the goal line and a third rushing touchdown.
Jonnu obvious when he's projected for 7 points and then breaks out for 24.
Projected. So. Who looks at that shit?
I mean, it's there. It's kind of hard not to look at it when you're looking at your roster.
Yeah. One thing about Justin Herbert is if he's good, then
Who's
the
talking
Titans
about Justin?
fans,
This is like Marcus all over again.
That's the point.
Nobody's
That's
talking
my
about
point.
Justin.
If the Titans fans that are still here because of Marcus, if Justin Herbert's good, they will leave. We will be done with them. We don't have to worry about it anymore.
Or they'll
should
say,
already left when he
look
went
at
to
this
Vegas.
team that ruined Marcus. He could have been just like Herbert.
Fuck.
That's what they'll say. It'll be terrible.
Those will be some great arguments. So just before we move on, though, we've talked a little bit about my roster. We've talked a little bit about the weeks for Zach and the great advice thrown. You've seen my shit advice sofa behind me. That's your local crack den. So I don't know, Greenlaw, if you have anything there, because you're down there with me, and so are you, Justin. But anything, Justin, from your picks last week you wanted to call that was a surprise to you that you didn't get?
Well, I said to bench Terry McLaurin. That was pretty silly.
You weren't alone.
Greenlaw, you were a victim of that too.
And
yeah, but I said don't play him in the flex, which is a worse call.
That is true.
It was bolder, but it was a worse call.
He was wide receiver 4 this week, and I want to I don't know. I have nothing to say. This is a hard game.
So pick your battles here when we get it.
I find it very easy.
So pick your battles here when we get into our sit starts, knowing that Zach almost had a perfect score last week. If Paris Campbell doesn't get injured, he probably is going to get that one too, because he had him as a sleeper, and he who knows? I mean, he only had 2 plays, 3 plays, whatever it was. So there's no real way to know, but that's not bad. 6 out of 7 is not bad.
Probably would have been a loss. I'm just sensing it. Probably would have been a loss.
You son of a bitch.
So let's move on to this week and start with our quarterbacks like we always do. Justin, kick us off with a start at quarterback.
So I debated going with Ryan Tannehill here, but this is just a direct shot at Zach that I am choosing Joe Burrow because I've watched 2 Eagles games now, as most of us have, and I have to say I am thoroughly unimpressed with the defense, completely and wholly unimpressed with the defense. I believe that the Bengals are going to let Joe Burrow throw, as evidenced by his 61 attempts last Thursday night.
Woo!
They've had a lot of time to prepare for this game, given that was the little mini buy of playing on a Thursday night. I think Joe Burrow is legit good. This is not going to be one of his 4-point games. Not this week, baby.
Is he going to have one of those games?
I still can't believe you said he was going to average under 4 points all year.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Does he have to play a really good defense? Who knows?
Well, let me say this:
when he plays the Ravens, he might have a really bad game. Let's just throw that.
I kind of disagree with Justin here in the fact that I think this is a rebound game for the Philadelphia defense. I'm very interested to see what happens with Darius Slay because obviously he was out this past weekend. But I think this is a down game for Joe Burrow, and this could be a 14-point game for Joe Burrow. I mean, he'll never be below 4, but I mean, who would be so stupid to say that?
Yeah. Maybe if you were exaggerating to make a point, you might say it, but I don't know.
Didn't seem like exaggerating at the time.
Yeah, it's weird because I said I was exaggerating 2 sentences later, but whatever. It's on tape.
I don't remember
I
that
sent
part.
I sent it to all of you, so it's weird. You should
I felt like you edited that in there.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Did not.
Well, you edit the podcast, so how do we know?
Yeah, for sure. I take all my sound effects out of it, so you guys don't hear it anymore. It's not because I completely forgot to turn the board on.
Have you been trying to do sound effects today?
Well,
No,
we've said the flex like 3 times already.
Have we?
Yeah. I completely forgot.
That's what happens when you're in the grungy apartment.
Shitty advice.
If you guys do not watch this video as listeners, go subscribe on YouTube. The video is so much better than just the audio podcast. It really
Honestly,
is.
it's not even worth listening to if you're just listening.
Well, no, still listen to this. Don't listen to fucking JG saying people don't listen to this. Do both.
All right. So moving on here. So Greenlaw, give us a sit at quarterback.
Wow, we've done one?
Yep.
We've done one. We're
Welcome to the
motoring
flex,
through
boys.
this.
Let me say something. We are going to give ample analysis on all these picks. I don't care how long it takes. We're doing it.
Oh, God. I got to go to bed at some point. Anyway. What do I get? I don't sleep.
My sit for this week is Deshawn Watson, which is really bold, obviously. You know, this is a great pick here.
It's almost the same exact pick that was made last week by someone else.
But it's not. He's playing different people now.
Oh, okay.
It's bold to go back-to-back sits. That's bold.
That's true, because usually bounce backs.
Yep.
We talked about this last week.
Yep. He's playing the Steelers. Steelers are the 10th best team against quarterbacks for fantasy points. So
We lied.
10th best. Yeah. So I think this is a bad situation for him. I'll get to this later, but he's kind of confused about who to throw to here. Will Fuller had, I think, 1 target last week for 0 points. A guy JG really likes, but he got
Not last
0
week, though.
points.
Yeah.
And he's
not last
healthy.
week. But not last week.
So,
I said.
Just real quick, I realized we lied last
Yeah, we should probably get into that just real quick. When healthy, he's a wide receiver 1, and here he was, and he sucked last week.
Completely healthy, completely sucking.
I would not have said to play him against the Ravens. He's a guy that you can draft in the 9th, 10th round, so you don't have to. That's the whole point of Will Fuller, is that
Right,
he
but
doesn't
he's only
have to
playable 1 week out of the year.
All right.
Well, it's been 2.
Well, we missed it.
So he's been playable 50% of the year, and I said to play him week 1. So we're doing well so far. Don't play him this week.
So 33% of the time he's playable.
Well, it's not been the sample size is much too small for these determinations.
Yeah.
30% of the time, it works every time.
Someone is learning from my playbook. I just want to, let you guys know.
So, guys, we lied. We said that if we got Melvin Gordon wrong again, we had to pick him to keep this thing going. Greenlaw got him wrong as a sit, and no one picked him this week. The spoiler alert.
It was between these two.
Yeah, I would never agree to that.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about saying sit Melvin Gordon this week.
Why don't you change yours real quick so we can keep it going? See,
Hell to
Well,
the
we're
yeah.
in quarterbacks, Ryan.
I know, but I
Talk to
just
us about
realized.
Gardner Minshew.
Okay, so Gardner Minshew is my start for reasons we've already pointed out. This has been a really good year, really good so far, taking advantage. He's got the Miami defense that just allowed a 400-yard game to Josh Allen. Miami is a spaghetti colander against the pass right now. Lots of injuries to that secondary, giving up over 14 points over the NFL average. So that's something I'm rolling with, especially with Minshew having the hot hand and hitting the spots like he is. So I'm all for Minshew this week as a spot starter.
Cool.
I like it. I don't really have a disagreement with it. I'm going back to the well, bud. I'm going back to week 1. Cam Newton is a sit. The Las Vegas Raiders have now gone quarterback 15 and quarterback 22. And quarterback 22 was freaking Drew Brees. I know that's without Michael Thomas, but there isn't a Michael Thomas on this New England offense. I know that he rushes. I know that Josh McDaniels will probably have something special, but I truly believe that this Raiders defense is somehow going to really screw up Cam Newton, and he is not going to fall in as a top 12 quarterback this week. Do not start Cam Newton.
Are
Going
we
back
too,
to it.
as a group, as a general NFL fan base, in the world, are we too low on the Raiders?
I think people are.
think
After
we are.
watching them, I watched the first half of the game, and I quit watching after the second half, which is apparently when they still kept on doing what they were doing.
That's when they were really good.
The last 2 weeks, they look really good. I mean, they looked
do.
good against a porous Panthers defense, and then they looked really good against a very good Saints defense, or what we perceive to be. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Raiders are
But-
pretty good.
They
But I
added
don't think they're going to be able to throw whatever 20 times to Darren Waller against the Patriots.
16 times to Darren Waller, no more than 3 targets for any other player.
Right, that's insane.
How is that even possible?
Well, it happened. We just saw it.
No.
You take what you take. Listen, you take what you're given by the defense, and apparently this Saints defense is just like, fuck it. Who gives a shit about Darren Waller?
That's what the offense said too. They just said F it, and then they didn't do anything except for dump off passes the whole game.
Yep. But hey, whatever. It worked. Zach, staying with you with running backs for a start.
Let's start Kenyon Drake, buds. Let's get back on the Kenyon Drake train, the Kenyon Drake Express. It's been a little bit of a bumpy ride. You had Chase Edmonds in week 1 taking a lot of, valuable snaps and everything. But then week 2, nothing happens, and then here we are, Arizona, Kenyon Drake. I feel that it's going to get going this week. This is the week to start Kenyon Drake. I will say this. I've been trying to trade for Kenyon Drake in every one of my leagues, and for whatever reason, nobody likes any of my trades, and I'm really butthurt about it.
I have him, and it's been a rough road.
It's not the great throne trade. Train throw.
Is not. But I will say this. So he played the Washington football team last week. It's a pretty stout defensive line. I mean, it's very hard for a team to run on that offensive line and everything. But PPR formats and all that kind of stuff, and he plays the Detroit Lions this week. No-brainer, Kenyon Drake. It's a start. Got to go for it. Trade for Kenyon Drake if you can. Trade me Kenyon Drake if you can.
Just for this week. All right. My sit at running back is David Johnson. Not coming off a great week, and he's got an even worse matchup. The Steelers are only giving up – there's some conflicting stats. I think someone had a typo in some of their stuff, but they're either only giving up 3.8 yards per carry or 2.9. Either way, it's not great for opposing running backs. Ranked 6th fewest in the league, giving up rushing yards. So that's not a great matchup for him. Plus, he's only got 5 catches so far in the season, so not really utilizing him there either. So it's just not a great matchup for David Johnson coming off of another bad matchup. And I'd sit him on his bench and wait to see if he can wake up. I think it's either that or that week 1 was a little bit of a mirage for what David Johnson is.
And I was going to put David Johnson for mine, but you stole him. So I agree.
Oh, wake up before noon there, confused boy.
It's L.A.
So moving on, Greenlaw.
I got James Robinson as my start. The Dolphins are giving up just 22 points per game to running backs, but the thing is the Jaguars give all their carries to James Robinson. So all the carries, almost all of the backfield targets. Chris Thompson got a couple, but I'm not worried about it. James Robinson's a start, especially against this bad Dolphins team.
And let me tell you, overtime boys here, y'all had some great advice Sunday morning, some great advice. You misled one of your people and then made fun of him for asking if they should start James Robinson or not over Zach Moss, and he got ridiculed, and I want an apology for that unnamed person.
A good decision is a good decision regardless of outcome, and that was not a good on-paper matchup for James Robinson. He did well. He busted through the line and scored a touchdown, which is like, come on, Titans, what are you freaking doing out there? But,
does this unnamed person's name rhyme with Brian Swatson?
Listen, I would like to hey, listen, I'll apologize. I will apologize that you could not make your own decision, whoever this may be, this unnamed person.
Well, this person also won that league, so it doesn't really matter. No big deal.
I will say this.
Also beat someone else in this room.
Is James Robinson going to be RB1 this week, Greenlaw?
No.
Ooh, dang! I was hoping they
Dolphins beat the Jags. Dolphins are beating the Jags. You heard it here first.
All right.
Ooh, I like it.
Give us Justin.
We got to do
picks
our
the Dolphins
pickups
every single week.
I already did mine. I do, and they were really close. If you read my best bets column, they covered the spread.
I think I might have picked them to cover. I don't know if I did.
They did cover the spread. You're welcome. How many people picked that? Not many.
I pick them.
28% of CBS people, I think.
While I'm doing that, Justin, give us another sit at running back.
All right, so you heard I was going to go with David Johnson. You heard that I had Chris Carson in this spot, but we're pivoting mid-show to keep the streak alive. Melvin Gordon.
You sucker.
This is probably a terrible pick because let's be real. With Phillip Lindsay out and with Drew Lock injured, who are the Denver Broncos going to give the ball to? I mean, Cortland Sutton's also injured. Everybody's injured. But the Bucs defense, I think, is pretty good. They held the Saints offense. I mean, the Saints had a pick six, so they scored more points than they should have, but held the Saints rushing attack in check. They held the Panthers in check. The Broncos are going to be pretty bad all around. I feel like they're just not going to move the ball. This is another case of a quarterback came in against the Steelers who is not the quarterback they game plan for, and he played decently well, and he led a little comeback there, and people who picked the Steelers like me were like, what's going on here? Drew Lock's out. What's going on with the Broncos? But I don't know. Melvin Gordon might have a good week, so my real pick is Chris Carson. But for the sake of the streak, it's Melvin Gordon. Sit him this week. He can't keep it up.
What a cop-out. You've just copied my pick from last week.
Wow.
Yeah. We've seen that multiple times.
We're going both
tonight.
ways. Also, don't play Chris Carson.
L2 for everybody out there. So stick with a start at receiver.
So at receiver, we're going to be starting. We mentioned him earlier in this podcast already. CeeDee Lamb. Another juicy matchup for Dallas. Zach already mentioned how Seattle can't cover anybody. They allowed a career-high receiving yards to Julian Edelman out of the slot last week. CeeDee Lamb's been playing mostly in the slot for Dallas. CeeDee Lamb's also been getting a lot of intentionally designed targets, screen passes, and little end-around sweep type things. They want to get him the ball because he's a playmaker. He's been making plays so far. He hasn't gotten the end zone yet, but he's had two decent fantasy games, especially in a flex position. I think this is the week where he finally gets in the end zone and is a wide receiver 2 or better.
Awesome. Greenlaw, give us I'm confused on why there's two names here, but give us a sit at receiver.
Well, the reason there's two names is because it would be kind of a cop-out to say Will Fuller since he had 0 points last week. So I'm saying both Texans wide receivers, the top two guys, Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, sit both of them. Again, same thing as the Deshaun Watson deal. They're playing a really good Steelers defense. I can't imagine a whole lot of success for these two guys. So sit both of them.
All right, sit the Texans, guys. I'm going to start Julian Edelman this weekend. I know what we've said about the Raiders. Maybe we're low on them, and this isn't a fact about me being low on them. I wouldn't call it a favorable matchup, but it's a decent one. And with everything that's going on, I think Edelman is – I mean, the Raiders did give up 300 yards, but it was all dump off. Well, Edelman excels. He's also becoming a favorite target of Cam Newton. Plus, he's just the best receiver on that team, and it's clearly not time. It hasn't passed him yet. So I'm rolling with Julian Edelman this week as my start. He had 18 targets over the first two games, so he's getting a lot of the share.
Can we talk about how bad the Seattle pass defense is? And I think this is a Gallup game over CeeDee Lamb. But
I almost put Gallup. I mean, I'm of the mind that you start all your Cowboys receivers this week because
you should. You definitely should. I definitely agree. I just wanted to go back to that little point.
Sure. Why don't you give us a sit at receiver while you're
I'm going to give you a sit. And it's Marquise Brown is not going to be popular. It's not a popular sit, but I hang onions. That's how I get to my 11 is that I remove the name and I go in depth into analysis. And the Kansas City Chiefs still carry around this misperception that they're a bad pass defense. They haven't been a bad pass defense for a little bit now. And it's time to get on board that they're going to hone in on what is going on in the Ravens offense. And this is not going to be a Marquise Brown game. Hollywood Brown, out of here. Don't start him. Sit him. Still start Lamar Jackson because he has the rushing edge. But do not start Hollywood Brown because right now he's a B movie.
Ooh. I am benching him in the league I have him in this week. So
that's good. Why don't you stick with you and give us a tight end to start?
Tight end to start, unlike some people on here, I truly believe Mike Gesicki or Gesicki, whatever his last name is.
You got it. You asked
Mike Gesicki?
The overtime. Neither of us knew how to say it, but guess what? I watched the Bills-Dolphins game, and this guy was extremely productive. They said his name a lot of times, and I now feel confident that it is Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki is going to go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we saw what Jonnu Smith did. It is a no-brainer. I know that people like to say that he's not very good or whatever. This guy was on fire towards the end of the year. He had a rough start to week 1. Start him this week versus the Jaguars. No doubt.
Boom.
All right. Well, my sit is going to be Tyler Eifert, and that may or may not be a stretch, but he's coming off a 13-point game in PPR. He's a known name. As I know what we've said earlier, I think Gardner Minshew is going to have a good game, but there are a couple factors here. Yeah, he's a recognizable game. I think you should forget his name this week just because while the Dolphins are bad against the pass, they have been better against the tight ends. They're giving up the second fewest points to tight ends so far in the season. So something's working there within their scheme. Based on what I saw, JG's searching the records. He'll put up the correction there if I'm wrong.
Who did they play at tight end? Name a Patriots tight end.
I don't care. Anyway, moving on.
Devin
You
Asasi.
can't?
My other point.
Asi? I think he's
Asi.
like fourth string. He's a rookie.
My other point is that Minshew is
Is he first string?
I think so.
Okay. Well, whatever. The point is, it's 2 weeks. You got to be careful with things like that. It's 2 weeks. They've played the Bills.
Minshew is also a bit of a wild card and likes to spread the ball out. We've seen that so far. The receivers are been big benefactors to him and his decisions so far this season. So it's a little bit of both for me. It's a little bit of everything combined. I don't think he's going to produce again for that 13 points. I think he's going to be closer to 4 or 5 points, a couple of receptions, that kind of thing. I think he stays out of the end zone. I just don't think you need to roll him into your lineup this week.
It's a Greg Olson regression week for Tyler Eifert.
Yeah. I don't disagree with the pick. Just be careful about things like that when it's only been 2 weeks. That's all I'm saying.
Spicy.
I know, but it's all I've got to go with right now when I was looking through everything, okay? I think my other points were better anyway. So Greenlaw, let's move on.
No, you're right.
I'm going with Drew Sample. He only played as the starting guy for about half last week against the Browns, but he had 9 targets in that short amount of time. So I think Burrow's going to look a lot at him this week against the Eagles, who gave up 3 touchdowns to Tyler Higbee. So I think he's a definite tight end 1 this week.
Let me ask you a question. How tall is Drew Sample?
Taller than me.
6'4", 258 pounds. I wasn't
Drew's, wrong, just so you know.
Yeah, you are right. He's way taller than you. But I love Drew Sample coming out of college because of his pure size. And he had he was a lot like, he reminded me a lot of Ben Troop and Jared Cook. Like from a Titans perspective, he was that guy that had all the physical attributes you would want in a tight end, but couldn't catch. I like this sneaky pick. I think this is a good sneaky pick.
Yeah, I like it too. He is taller than anyone on the show, so that's a good.
But not taller than Mike Miracles.
No.
I'm taller than everybody. Nobody can ever prove otherwise.
Justin, give us a sit at tight end.
So I'm going to go with, Logan Thomas really let me down last week. He would have been a good sit pick last week, but sorry. Hayden Hurst had a decent game against the Cowboys. I don't know, it's totally random. Hayden Hurst had a decent game against the Cowboys, but I'm not totally sold on this guy. I think that it's dangerous to roll him out 2 weeks in a row, hoping for back-to-back touchdowns, which is really where his production came from last week. So I'm just benching Hayden Hurst because I think that Matt Ryan is going to spread the ball around. Russell Gage scored a touchdown. Julio Jones only had 2
touchdowns
catches.
a week in a row. That's someone we probably need to put on our radar at some point.
I think Russell Gage is a legit part of that offense. I think Julio Jones.
I told you last week he
Greenlaw's had him on his radar.
He did.
Yeah, that makes up for all the other bad picks last week, I think.
Julio Jones dropped a big touchdown. He could have had a much different day. And I just think the production we saw go to Hayden Hurst last week is typically going to be Julio Jones stats. So I'm worried about starting him 2 weeks in a row.
I'd like to have a separate podcast just to talk about Austin Hooper and what the fuck has happened to Austin Hooper and why Hayden Hurst has not taken over that Austin Hooper role.
Like both things. Like Austin Hooper's been terrible in Cleveland, and
we called that on the show,
which we did.
Right.
But we thought that Austin Hooper was a product of the system, so we thought that Hayden Hurst would then also be a product of the system, right? But I guess
it's a crazy dichotomy. Is that right?
Last year,
Did I get that right?
Last year, the Falcons wide receiver 3 didn't really produce very well. And this year, we've seen Russell Gage produce a lot. So I just think the production may have shifted instead of
Hear that, Titans fans, because it's not Sanu.
Yeah.
It's not Sanu.
Nobody
It's Mohamed Sanu.
So just to stick with you, give us a defense to start.
So I like the Colts. I actually think this is a no-brainer, and this is kind of a cop-out for me. The Jets are the worst team in football. There's no question about it. They're absolutely, utterly, entirely disastrous. And I picked up the Colts in 4 leagues this week. I tried to pick them up in 6 leagues, but they were not available in one, and I lost them in the other. But I did get them in 4 weeks, not just because I think this isn't a must-start, no-brainer week, and they're probably going to have like a 50% play share in DFS this week just because the Jets are so bad. But I actually think the Colts defense is not entirely legit, but mildly legit. And I like their upcoming schedule, too. So I know this is a start-sit for the week thing, but this is good advice. If the Colts are still out there, they're probably not. But if this person in your league who has them drops them, they play Chicago and Cleveland and Cincinnati the next 3 weeks. Then they come back and play Detroit. So they have a pretty good, after a bye, so they have a pretty good upcoming little schedule here. No-brainer. Colts, this is my only win of the week.
I like that you okay.
Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
Well, I just like that he picked this as a no-brainer, but then he also told you why it should be a weekly no-brainer, which is not a cop-out. Like, it's not a cop-out to go against the Jets because he also told you that the Colts are going to be viable for a couple of weeks. I just want to say that. I just want to compliment him.
Right. If you are in the market of streaming defenses, though, that should be your target every single week.
Yes,
streaming
100%.
Yeah, look ahead now at who the Jets are playing because it's not getting better in New York. What's up, Ryan? You look bummed as hell.
Yeah. Did you happen to look at my picks before you made your picks?
No. Why?
That was.
Oh my God! Y'all both have the Colts.
Yeah.
I just now noticed that.
Yeah, he did.
Well, the Colts was the only thing that I wrote in without even thinking twice about it. Everything else I had to do.
Hey, maybe you should have thought twice because I had him first.
Yeah, well, you took the David Johnson from me. Frickin' motherfucker over here took Michael Pittman from me, and this other motherfucker took Jeff Wilson from me. So.
I can't take someone from you if I'm the first one to say
Spoiler
it.
alert! My life is 2 hours behind yours. It's not fair.
All right,
I mean,
Greenlaw.
I did it like at 10 a.m. this morning.
Give us a
Isn't
six.
it interesting, though? You guys literally live things 2 hours before I do in real time. Anyway, go ahead.
I think that's
how
the
it
weed
works.
talking.
Yeah, you live it 2 hours before. Your time is paused while theirs is going on.
But, like, you wake up and start your day, and, like, your brain activity, whatever. You become informed about things. Whatever, man. Life's crazy, bro.
Justin's very confused right
Life's
now.
confusing, man. Just so confusing.
Holy. All right, I should get this back on the rails. Give us
I want it to be
sit.
known I'm playing this up a little bit, at least in that last part.
So this one's kind of going against what Zach said earlier, where he said sit Cam Newton, but I'm saying sit the Vegas defense.
Only one
I
of us
think
can be right.
That's true. And if history tells us anything, it's going to be me. So we're going to go with the Vegas Raiders. You're going to sit them because Cam Newton's going to shred them. So Zach will be wrong. I'll be right.
Shred 'em.
All will be
On the ground
Chris-
or through the air? Because he's still not
Both.
that great of a quarterback.
both. He threw for what, 380 yards or
Against
something
the
like that.
Seahawks.
That's true.
Don't
But-
let a couple weeks cloud your judgment.
Just saying. It's not a great. I still don't believe in the weapons around Cam. It's not that I don't like Cam. I just don't believe in the weapons.
I agree with that. Sneaky guy to keep tabs on is N'Keal Harry. He's got as many targets as Julian Edelman does.
I've been thinking about that guy lately.
What guy?
Nicole Harry.
N'Keal Harry. Thanks for paying attention, Ryan.
I like to think about how Will Brinson
I'm
says,
having to scramble for a freaking defense now because of
look at
just.
the Zoom chat.
I don't want either one of those two teams you picked up.
I don't think Jesus plays good defense, to be honest with you.
I apologize. for
While
taking
we
the
wait
word.
on Ryan to pick a defense, I'll just go on and do Tennessee as a sit. Sit Tennessee. Don't fall for this garbage that Kirk Cousins sucks and the offense of the Minnesota Vikings sucks and Dalvin Cook sucks. We just saw what James Robinson did. We just saw what this Jacksonville Jaguars defense did. It's a rebound week. Titans are going to win, but Kirk Cousins is going to put up enough points, and this offense will put up enough points to make them a out of the top 12 defense. Don't fall for this crap that this Minnesota Vikings team is a crap team, that it belongs in the Browns and it belongs in those other teams. It's not that way on paper. It will be better. But this team is going to be at home. And I think that this, unless we get some major help from players coming back on the roster for the Tennessee Titans, if they don't come back to the roster, then this team is going to be tired and Adam Thielen is going to score. And this could be a high-scoring game. I believe in this Minnesota offense to be able to produce enough points to make this a sub-12 NFL defense.
You want 5 more defenses?
No.
I'll go with the Browns for my start. I have no analysis for you, but just go with the Browns.
Browns play Washington. Falcons play Chicago. Jags play Miami. Chargers play the Panthers. And San Francisco plays the Giants. You may be worried about San Francisco. You may be worried about the Jags, but Miami's terrible.
San Francisco's starting Nick Mullins at this point.
That's true. That's interesting. But their
defense...
Go
with the Browns. That's my. I guess since I don't get to pick the Colts, which I agree was a no-brainer. I liked it so much I put them in first.
It's because you started with.
We'll count the Colts. We'll count the Colts for both.
Because you started with Indianapolis, so I quickly scanned for a C and I saw an I, and I didn't even think twice. Just wrote Colts.
What NFL team starts with I?
Let me say this: the way that this spreadsheet's laid out, if you ignored the Colts, I think you're just illiterate at this point.
So JG, you're illiterate.
Wow. That hurts.
You're illiteracy fucked us again, Charlie.
And I never knew that I was illiterate until right now, actually.
Yeah.
We'll give you a tie for it.
I never learned to read, if anybody ever has saw Wayne's World.
Let's move on to the position. Zach, start back with you. Let's give us a must start.
Let's talk about John Brown.
Talk about him.
And let me say this. I saw a video today of some Buffalo Bills, idiot stooges talking about their wide receiver one being Stephon Diggs. Hello, have you watched 2 weeks? Have you watched last year? John Brown is your number one wide receiver. John Brown and what the fuck is their quarterback's name?
You love Cole Beasley?
Josh Allen. Holy shit, I just blanked on Josh Allen. John Brown and Josh Allen. 2 generic fucking names that connect constantly. John Brown is a wide receiver one. He's got the speed. He's got the deep ball for Josh Allen. And I will say this. Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen just don't mesh well. I know they had a good game this last week, but guess who still got a touchdown and still who got the yardage? John Brown. John Brown's around. John Brown is a flex. He's a must start. Doesn't matter if you're going to put him in the flex. Doesn't matter if you put him in the wide receiver spot. This is your guy. Start him.
All right, you're going to have to put a lot of corrections on that one, JG, because Stephon Diggs last week had 13 targets for 153 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I played against him, so
yeah, but John Brown still got his. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, but Diggs is still wide receiver one. He's the number 4 overall fantasy wide receiver right now.
Now, Greenlaw. Yeah. Now, what did you say in week 1? You said, well, Josh Allen is the only guy that turned Stephon Diggs into nothing.
He could, but I was wrong though, because he's
one game does not make it.
It's not one. He's got 22 targets so far across the 2 games, which I think is probably 3rd in the league behind Deontay Johnson and maybe Hopkins.
Let me say this. John Brown's the guy. That's the guy to own. Week after week, that's the guy to
own both of them if you can.
Yeah.
Because they're both top 10 wide receivers right
I'm not here to argue about Stephon Diggs versus John Brown. I'm here to argue that John Brown is who you need to be starting in your flex.
Just be careful about the whole 2 weeks thing and the fact that the Bills have had a very easy opening schedule against the Dolphins and the Jets. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, keep that in the back of your mind when you're talking about Stephon Diggs.
So in my flex position, I am going to sit Ronald Jones. After we've got lied to, he has fallen out of favor. He didn't. I think that Tom Brady disappeared him after he dropped a pass that he should have had. So
fumble.
So either way, he has fallen out of favor with Tom Brady. When you fall out of favor with Tom Brady, you disappear in the offense.
Just ask Jonas Gray.
Yep, and it does appear that Leonard Fournette is overtaking a bit and rushed around. He had outrushed Jones 12-7 on Sunday and did a lot more with it. Combine that
He
with
looked good. Sorry, he looked good.
he did, but here's the thing: combine that with a tough matchup versus the Broncos. So either if you just want to say they're going to split carries, if that's your best case scenario, I'm sitting around Jones because I think Fournette's going to do more with his opportunities, and it's a tough matchup versus the Broncos and has all the makings of a sit for him, and just stay away from him. If you have to rely on him, maybe find someone in the waiver wires that can maybe do better or has a better matchup for you.
If you can dump Ronald Jones in a trade or something, do it, because this is the highest his value is going to be, in my opinion, for the rest of the season. Unless something happens to Fournette.
100%.
Dump him if you can in a
Couldn't
trade.
agree more.
That's some good advice. Why don't you give us some more advice there, Greenlaw?
My flex start this week is going to be old Joshua Kelly.
Love it.
He is basically the Melvin Gordon in this offense right now. He's getting more rushing attempts than Austin Eckler is, and he's playing the worst fantasy rushing defense in the league in Carolina. They're giving up 46 points per game to running backs, which is absolutely absurd. This is a no-brainer. Both of him and Eckler are both going to be successful because the Chargers play both of them equally almost. So he's going to eat. He's definitely a flex. I was tempted to put him in to my running back spot, but I like James Robinson. So
You would have been fine to put him in the running back spot because they play the Panthers, which is
Right.
a horrible run defense. And currently he's running back 23.
Yeah.
Running back 19 is Austin Eckler. That is a disparative. That's a huge gap in value between what you drafted those two guys at. And Joshua Kelly is a must start. I talk about it in the fourth down decision, which will be out today. And Josh Kelly is a must start week in and week out until he proves otherwise multiple weeks in a row that he is not a valuable part of this offense, because he is.
I was
I
thrilled
love
to
the pick.
grab him.
I love the
Thrilled
pick.
to grab him today. Didn't even have to put in a waiver claim. He was sitting there.
He literally was just sitting in your
After waivers process, he was just sitting there, and I was like, oh, what's this guy
Oh my
still doing
God.
here?
I want to
I'll
be in
take him.
that league. I want to go to there.
That's my
too.
family league that I win a lot.
Let's stick with you. In
let's not talk about that league anymore.
let's stay with you with the most convenient pick of the day here, and talk to us very little about your flex option.
Look, if you like Braxton Berrios, if you like Frank Gore, if you like Le'Veon Bell, if you like Brashad Perriman for some reason, even healthy, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Nobody on the Jets is worth playing this week. The Jets are the worst team in the league. They don't score points. They scored a garbage time point. It's garbage. Yeah. What?
So my question is, if you're going to stick with this, if anybody on that offense breaks out, is this a loss for you?
Oh, yeah.
Any
Oh,
running back
it
or
is.
wide receiver or tight end. Well,
At
Chris
flex.
Herndon. Chris
Sounds
Herndon's
like
pretty
Chris
good.
Herndon
So
revenge game.
No,
Chris Herndon
it
could
says
fuck me here.
anyone on the Jets as a flex
I agree.
position.
I'm putting this out there. There's a reason I snaked the Colts away from Ryan before he could talk about them, is that the Jets are bad.
Justin, give us your sleeper of the week.
My sleeper of the week is Darnell Mooney. What? What's so funny about this? He's got a kind of funny name. Whatever. Darnell Mooney, show me the moon, baby, because they get the Atlanta Falcons this week.
What in the world?
The Bears play the Falcons this week. The Falcons are terrible on defense. They just had one of the worst collapses in the history of the NFL. After having one of the worst collapses in the history of the NFL during the Super Bowl of Matt Ryan's MVP season, they somehow topped it. Maybe not in stakes, but in terms of just overall terribleness. Defense in Atlanta is not good. I don't think the Bears' offense is great. I don't think they're a traditional 2-0 great team right now. But Darnell Mooney is a rookie who's been playing well. He's been playing a little bit over Anthony Miller, which is kind of interesting. And he has a connection with Mitch Trubisky. He caught a touchdown last week, and I think maybe he's earned his way into some more snaps against a bad defense. He's my sleeper of the week, baby.
All right, Greenlaw, give us your sleeper of the week.
Real quick, does it worry you that Mitch Trubisky disappears wide receivers on a week-to-week basis? Like Anthony Miller was great week one, and then last week he had less than 5 points, I think. Does that worry
It does
you from
slightly, but Anthony Miller didn't really have a great week one. He had a really nice touchdown catch, but if you look at the
Right.
snap counts, his snap counts were low in week one even, and they were even lower in week two, which is just, I don't know, it's weird. I liked Anthony Miller coming out of Memphis, so I don't know what's going on there, but I do like Darnell Mooney. And yes, I'm slightly concerned, but
I know what's going on there is that their quarterbacks suck.
Well, that's definitely an issue.
true.
But I'm talking about the snap counts. Like, why isn't Miller playing more snaps?
Because Matt Nagy sucks, or Nagy, whatever his last name
I
is.
was not trying to figure this out. Greenlaw, what's your sleeper?
It's Jeff Wilson. So he became RB2 with San Francisco after they lost Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. So I think there's enough work for him and McKinnon to go around here, and they're playing the Giants, which, they're not great. And I expect San Francisco to be up, which means they can run the ball a little bit more. So more touches for Wilson, little sneaky sleeper.
I agree. I think Jerick McKinnon probably maintains the same role, and they just let Jeff Wilson be the main guy carrying the load.
Yeah.
I agree.
One running back in for sure. My sleeper is going to be Curtis Samuel, and I thought that they would use him a lot more than they have this season. Well, with Christian McCaffrey out 4 to 6 weeks, and I know Mike Davis is the hot name, the running back there, because it appears he will be the starting every down running back. But I'm gonna tell you, Curtis Samuel already had 51 snaps. He has a lot of snaps in this offense. He's only getting 6 touches, though. I expect that to increase significantly as they try to work him in the game and give him some of the Christian McCaffrey work that's a little outside the box, that's a little creative. I expect them to try to give that to him and force the ball to him as a playmaker in this offense and use Mike Davis as a regular just running back. So look for Samuel's get an uptick in his usage and how they get creative with him. I know that, you could see some snaps at receiver running back. So you got to love that versatility that he's going to bring to this offense that's going to need a bit of a crutch and a bit of someone to lean on while McCaffrey's out.
Great pick.
And also, Matt Rule has said back in July that they expect him to take some snaps out of the backfield. So I think that this is a dead on. When Christian McCaffrey goes down, they go towards the running back, right? The next running back up, he goes down. I think with a week of planning, Curtis Samuel is going to be involved in that backfield with Matt Rule, and I think this is a great sleeper pick. I do have to say. It'll probably fail, but, it will.
It's great right now. It's a good decision in the moment. So
yeah.
Give us your sleeper, Zach.
I'm going back to the well again. I went back with Cam Newton as quarterback as sleeper, and now I'm going back to a rookie Colts wide receiver here right now. Michael Pittman Jr. He didn't get the target share because Paris Campbell went down, and he probably wasn't at full health because it was actually said that Michael Pittman may not play this game. I think this is the week that Michael Pittman has a breakout. We know this coaching staff loves Michael Pittman. Frank Reich has a hard-on for Michael Pittman, wants to get him involved. That's why they drafted him. And I think this could be a good week for that. I think that Michael Pittman is going to have some target share. We know that Phillip Rivers does like to spread the ball around. Even though that Phillip Rivers did not have a great week this last week, he was quarterback 26. I think that we'll see an uptick right here. Michael Pittman, deep sleeper.
I like it. Guys, we gave some great advice. We've had a very long show. Hopefully everyone's able to pick up some tips here from the great advice thrown, from the shitty advice sofa, and all things in between to a backboard that is still in the room but is in a weird position because it's a background where he loves Calvin Ridley. But in closing, remember to be sure and check out all of our other podcasts and articles that Broadway Sports has to offer at BroadwaySportsMedia.com, partnered with 440 Sports. Make sure to catch Zach and JG at 11 a.m. Central on Fantasy Overtime for all your Week 3 last-minute advice. Follow Broadway Sports on Twitter at BroadwayTN and the show at Flex on Broadway. Follow Zach at FWordsPod, JG at Titans Film Room, and Greenlaw at Rob on Broadway. Remember to subscribe and rate 5 stars. See you next time.
What's going on?
I called out his board. He had to come drag it up.
Amazing focus on that board, too.
Can you draw two hands going up for the football real quick?
Are we doing hand turkeys?
I meant like our the ending animation. There we go.
Are you even writing anything?
Yeah, I can see it.
He's got the green.
Oh, sorry.
That was much better.
I love it. It looks great.
A Broadway sports media production.